Hello and welcome back to Resurgence Yu-Gi-Oh! And our podcast, the long-awaited return of Anything in Standby. I am once again the host, Caleb, joined by my lovely co-hosts, Alan. Alan, say hi or something racist.
Hello.
That's
Something
racist.
racist. Something racist.
And Austin. Austin, say something.
Yo.
And special guest today, first time on the podcast, longtime fans, and we decided to. Jesus Christ!
Did you drop?
His face said it all.
Did you drop the gold one?
Yeah, so we decided to take some fan requests and get probably the better people in the group on the channel. We have Grant, first time listener, first time call in. Grant, say something. Say hi.
All right, I guess it's time for me to speak. Hello, my name is Grant. I've been playing in the Portland area pretty much since February. I moved here in February, I suppose. I guess that's where to start. But overall, I've been probably playing Yu-Gi-Oh! On paper for about 3 years now. The thing that got me into that was a quarter-life crisis of realizing that a corporate job is not fulfilling enough to lead your whole life with. So that was the hobby I decided to get into because I love the show and grew up with it and everything. And it's been a wild ride ever since. Favorite card, I guess, to answer the prompt, probably Junk. I'll say Junk Warrior actually. Honestly, Junk Zekron and Junk Warrior are both bangers. So yeah, happy to be here.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What is your prejudice against Junk Archer?
Junk Archer. No comment. Anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And what does your Yu-Gi-Oh story look like? Accomplishments, what you like to play, things like that.
My Yu-Gi-Oh story. A lot of invites acquired throughout the 3 years of playing.
All right, no need to
I've
rub
only
it in.
gone. I've only gone to. I can't say tops because they weren't top eights. Some people get a little dicey about that. Unfortunately. But I've been to. I went to Nats this year. Almost it was one win away from day two. But I made day two at Anaheim, so that was really cool. And I defeated some other Italians. So a little bit of Italian on Italian violence. It
Nice.
went well. Yep.
DB Grinder
So
would love to hear that.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, overall, many people back from where I moved would describe me as a purple card enjoyer, not because I play
Nice.
trap decks or stun. Fusion decks have always been my favorite, between Branded to Memento to Dracotel. It's probably my favorite deck right now. So
Let it be shown that Grant is our newest member of Resurgence and our most accomplished member. He's like the gold. He's the golden boy of Resurgence YGO.
that's insane.
Yeah, we paid him a lot of money.
But fuck this guy. I hate him, but I love him.
Well,
Anyways, continue.
True.
We paid him a lot of money to be here to make us look better and give us some street cred. Speaking of street cred, Niko, how you doing? Welcome to the
How
podcast.
y'all doing? Street cred. Love to be introduced that way. But hi, I'm Niko. I've been acquainted with these guys longer than I would unfortunately would like. But I love these guys. Love Yu-Gi-Oh! I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Since I was, maybe like in elementary school. I was introduced to the game through one of my parents' friends. They showed me, the cards of like the old like Yugi structure decks or starter decks, however you called them back then. And I thought the cards looked cool, so I started like playing after that. And then later in school, like I met Caleb here, and then later the other two, and then Grant now, and it's just one of those things that's really kept me like, it's brought me a certain amount of levity in my life, having so much fun playing a hobby, and it's been really, really just a joy.
Nice.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm crying. Don't pay attention to my face game. What about your Yu-Gi-Oh story? Give me a brief rundown. We've been playing competitively since fucking Raging Battle, but give me just the briefest of timelines on this.
Oh gosh, timelines. Well, like you said, we got
failures.
oh gosh. Well, when we started playing in Rage and Battle, we played, but we had so much we had a lot of fun doing it. I didn't really start getting competitive until oh, I guess this is a nice segue into like my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's Dante, Traveler of the Burning Abyss. That's when I really started to play like competitive, where I really started like, oh my God, like I could play this game really, really efficiently, really well. Um, and then as far as accomplishments, funny story. I think I'm known in this community for bubbling out too much in these tournaments that I can't give you a proper opinion on myself, man. It's led to copious amounts of crash outs. And
That's fair enough.
My
so to Yu-Gi-Oh boys.
To Yu-Gi-Oh. What about playstyle? What do you like to play? Like, is there like a specific thing that catches your eye other than just playing the best deck in the room?
I'm very much a combo based player. I like
Snore.
yeah, right. I just like decks that provide so many avenues to play. I think that's the awesome thing about this game is that there's so much interaction between two players, and I like utilizing that as much as I can. So in any type of deck, whether that be like, I was really a enjoyer of Snake Eye. Yeah, I know everyone here is probably like sick of that, but I loved the idea of just being able to do something all the time and being rewarded for just how well you did that certain thing. So very much a combo player, but I've also played like decks that are like control based, mid range. I'm not like unknown to all these different avenues to play, but combo is where I lean mostly.
Fair. And final question before we move on. What is your opinion on Dominus Impulse in Snake Eyes?
Well, let me tell you something. I lost to it once.
All right, so
Probably
moving
should
on.
be in there.
So since our last podcast, there's been a few shakeups. We've had a few lost episodes since then. I swear we just didn't forget that we ran a podcast. We've been trying to record. We've been trying to feed content to the content machine. But we, for some reason or another, either Austin spontaneously combusted or Alan lost his microphone mid podcast. But yeah, we have a whole new way to play Yu-Gi-Oh. And as the resident Genesis enjoyer, we just wanted to touch on a little bit of what is going on in that format and things like that. But first, before I speak on for a whole 10 minutes about Genesis, gentlemen, have you guys been experimenting with Genesis or playing it or testing it or anything like that?
I have a list that I've wanted to play Genesis for a while because my deck plays in both formats. Thankfully, like versions of my deck play in both formats.
And what deck is that?
I'm currently a Radiant Typhoon enjoyer. I enjoy that deck quite a bit. I think it suits my playstyle a lot. Being like, I like doing stuff on my turn, but I also like doing stuff on my opponent's turn. Like, I'm not a big combo player. Like, I'm more of like mid range, kind of control the game to a certain degree. But yeah, I think that's like how I like to play Yu-Gi-Oh. So I think Radiant Typhoon's really cool in the way it does that, and it has like a lot of variations in the lines, and then you can like bridge with like a lot of different other sub engines like a Fiend Smith version just got top five. It got 5th place at the UK Open, and then there's also the Runic variant, and then people are still doing stuff with Tri Brigade as well. So I think it's a really cool deck, and they're getting support. It's gonna be sick. But yeah, so I was gonna play this past Saturday actually after normal locals, but for some reason our locals Chronos decided like they were gonna start it midway, like so normal local starts at 12, and the Genesis local starts at 2. But now they're gonna change it so you can do both essentially. So they're gonna start the other
That's
one like
whack.
at 3. Yeah. So I didn't get to play this weekend, but I was looking forward to playing the Runic version of my deck in that. Yeah, but I didn't. But how about you, Caleb?
No, I mean I can speak about Genesis for a while, but I before I do that, I just want to go through everybody and see kind of what Austin. I understand you found the tier 0 mega threat of the format, and you've been playing that online here and there. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my experience with Genesis is pretty limited besides the online. I thought I was going to be more interested in the format than I actually am. I think because of the timeline matchup for our locals, I might try a Genesis Locals once or twice, but I don't know that it's for me. I I have never been a very strong deck builder just because of my limited experience with the game and my limited knowledge of the game. So I've always, I've never been able to delve into like the minute interactions between cards and the cross compatibility. So Genesis just has never really stroked the nerve for me.
Fair, fair. But you did find the best deck in the format very quickly, and have been kind of tinkering with it. Do you want to tell the audience about some fairy dragons?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I suppose the the secret meta pick.
Secret
All
sauce,
I'm
the
gonna say is
Krabby
just keep
Patty
your
secret
eyes out for
formula.
Wonka. Okay, there's a card that's running around. It's ultra
that
rare.
fucker.
It deserves to be an ulti
No.
QCR Starlight. Goes by the name of Wonko. He's here to steal your bitch. All right.
I was I was gonna follow up with hashtag dicks out for Wonko.
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
Exactly.
Yep, that's the goat. That's the goat right
I
there.
mean, I've even heard
Yeah.
there are rumors that Wonko's on the next TCG advanced ban list. And just saying.
Real shit.
So what you're saying is Wonko goes by Bubba sometimes?
Bubba.
That's a political reference. Moving on. Grant, what's your experience with Genesis? What have you been doing with it?
Yeah, no, I think I can kind of talk to this a little bit. I also have a pretty limited experience with the format, mainly also because the decks I was trying to play were kind of terrible. At first, I was trying to get into, finding some sort of Infernoid deck to play with. I found like the Chimera variant was pretty cool, just being able to like make a Tierra by shuffling back materials with like say like the Buio engine, for example. The problem was you're still playing. High level dudes that sometimes just can't summon themselves at all. Like it still
Yeah.
depends on like having a lot of dependencies fall into place. Uh, and then as well, I think one of my favorite decks I was playing was the Earthbound Immortal deck for a little bit or like the Earthbound Servants. I thought that was a lot of fun. The one thing I think it did do for me was it made me kind of similar to like Austin. Like for a while, I haven't really been a big deck builder either. I used to be a fair bit more maybe a couple years ago when I was really getting into the game to start with. Sometimes good decisions, sometimes bad. But I think Genesis kind of opened that up for me again, where now in the TCG I feel more comfortable trying different random shit and seeing what works out. Not being afraid to at least try to take some of that time to throw something together, do some hands, see what happens. Like I think that's one of the reasons I think the like Dracotel Canine was a deck that I revisited because I played some time, in Genesis, and it made me, more excited to deck build again in general, and so I was able to carry that over to the TCG as well. So while I'm not probably going to be the biggest Genesis player, I think it's a lot more fun to deck build in, and so sometimes that enthusiasm can carry over. So that's kind of my 2 cents. So.
Sick. And finally, Niko, how are you feeling about Genesis?
I won't lie. The first time, like my instant like reaction after I read the rules and the ban list was I thought it was the worst thing ever because I couldn't play pendulum cards. But then like, you know, going through it and stuff, I love deck building. I think that, it really defines what this game is. It separates it apart from every other card game, in my opinion. And also it's a real interesting and fun, like, I guess more simplistic way to explain this game to like people who have never played this game before. So I think that there's so many cool like benefits to the idea of this format. Um, I haven't been like playing it like actively in person, but I have been like testing stuff online, building stuff online because, like I said, I love deck building, and I think this really just is a great like I guess intro for people to want to like, you know, build something, and not have every like deck list you see just be a copy paste of another. Um and especially for like old school players who really like also enjoy the idea of just like slowing the game down a tad and making things seem more like innovative than I said, or yeah, the copy and paste thing. I think it's really like I think it's fun and it's a really interesting concept.
Nice. Well, as for my Genesis stuff, I'm exclusively a Genesis player now. You can find my content out on my personal YouTube channel, but I do a lot of Genesis stuff, talk about it and stuff like that. I absolutely love it. I think it's the de facto way to play Yu-Gi-Oh at this point. But it's not in the best of places right now. I don't know how much you guys follow it. I won't belabor the point too much, but there's a certain pair of hand traps that have kind of taken over the meta. That would be Droll, Lockbird, and Nibiru. And it's pretty much like play decks that can play into those two hand traps or kind of lose. And it's not the best right now. Looking at uh, the recent results from different things, from the different YCS invitationals and stuff like that, it's a very diverse format. I think there was a statistic that, like, in Pittsburgh, there were 34 unique decks that went to the invitational. And so compared to Anaheim that had, I think, 24. So it's definitely getting more diverse, but uh, there are definitely some outliers to it. I think that the format is still largely unexplored as far as like dark horses and stuff like that. And like everybody has kind of spoken to, deck building is kind of the main point of Genesis, and finding some truly just heinous shit that you can do that sits at 0 points. Things like Flying Sea, last format, and things like that. Um, but yeah, Genesis is definitely a really fun format. One of the cool things that I really like about it is how little non-engine plays into it. As far as you're not getting into Mulch Army versus Ash Wars all the time. It's a lot more engine v engine, minus the fucking Droll, Lockbird, and Nibiru cards. Um, and that's a lot of fun when you're just like slapping people around with whatever your engine is versus whatever their engine is. It actually feels like an actual game of Yu-Gi-Oh rather than what skeleton of a deck best plays the non-engine that beats the rest of the format. So, but yeah, check Genesis out if you haven't. It's a really, really fun format, and if nothing else, just play your pet deck in there, and it's really fun to try and mold your deck into it.
Can't play
But
my pet deck in there because Yugi boomers won't allow pendulums.
you can play
I
Malice.
will say I do want to counter your point a little bit about the Droll and Nibiru kind of deforming the format a little bit, because I think ultimately you gave 2 points that I think kind of clash, in the sense that like it's about finding that new busted tech that's like 0 points that Rhett's seeing. I think when you have a format that is so widespread, there are necessary evils. Now, of all the like lingering floodgate hand traps that are out there, right? Droll, I think, is one of those necessary evils, because you have decks that can combo off search endlessly into oblivion, and especially in a format where there are those cards that haven't been noticed yet, haven't been brought to the spotlight. You have to have some way to kind of protect against that. And then I think ultimately too, in a much lower power format, a card like Nib isn't necessarily game ending. I think it's just I think those are just a trade off of that open source idealism that goes with Genesis, that ability to kind of have so much freedom. You do have to have those necessary evils, and I think that makes for a healthy format in any kind of situation, in any kind of sport or anything, or any kind of competitive. There should be these checks and balances in place to protect the those coming
100%.
in. So
Sure. Yeah.
100%. And I'm not trying to say that Droll and Nibiru are unhealthy cards in the format. I don't think that they should be 100 points or anything like that. I've always been a Droll hater, even in TCG. I think that card is just, anytime that card is good, it's indicative of a bad format. But that's just my personal opinion. But with how Genesis works and how it is point totals, those two cards being as high impact of cards as they are at such a low point total means that you are doing yourself a disservice by not playing them. They are played in the same capacity that Ash Blossom and Fuwalos and those kind of cards are played in the TCG. Whereas you have cards like Ash and Imperm in Genesis that are costed at 13 points for Imperm and 15 points for Ash. But for the same price that you can play one Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, you can play 3 Droll and Lockbirds. and that is ridiculous. I'm not saying that it needs to be 100 points for Droll Knockbird. I think that I think 5 points for those two cards specifically are way too cheap. And Nibiru did get cost adjusted. I mean, it was 10 points and then they lowered it down to 5. And look, now it's everywhere. It was already seeing success at 10 points. So, they did mention that they weren't going to have a point update this month, but they will about midway through December. And I think that is going to be very indicative towards the future of Genesys going forward, because you've already seen a lot of the interest start to taper off for Genesys. And I think that that is just from the first format was really fun. There were some clear outliers like Vanquish Soul and things like that, but the point adjustment has kind of made it interesting. But there are still some like really frustrating outliers. But in a format where you can take your pet deck, play with it, and like kind of learn how to beat the best decks of the format, I feel like it gives those kind of decks that have never seen the light of day in TCG a chance to actually like shine a little bit. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think that while that's true, I do think it's still it's disingenuous to like the reality of like how it's performed so far. The best deck in TCG at one point was Canine Vanquishal. Go over to Genesys. What was the best deck at the first event? And even now, Canine Vanquishal is still being played at high levels in those Genesys tournaments. So I mean, I think the issue right now, and what we'll see going forward, is there needs to be a bigger shift away from what has already been established in the TCG in order to allow Genesys to really thrive. If you're going from the TCG to Genesys because you don't like the TCG and you're just facing more of what is already dominant in the TCG, then I could see why you would be turned off for Genesys. You're like, what's the point? So,
right. And to that point as well, they at least on the blog, they revived the Konami blog for Genesys, which is crazy. But they've spoken about how like they do not want the best decks in TCG to be also the best decks in Genesys. They spoke about that when they hit Vanquish Soul. And looking at Draco Tail now performing in Genesys, I'm sure that deck's going to get hit pretty hard too, just because they want them to be two completely separate looking formats. So, yeah, good stuff.
I think something I think it'd be cool to add a little bit to the conversation is how Genesys, I think, if done well over time, is gonna maintain a higher value like of product that comes out.
Yes.
I think it's it might become a bit of a meme when like certain archetypes get revealed and people are like, oh well, at least it'll be good in Genesys. Like,
right.
That's already kind of a bit. I'm like, yo, shout out Killer Tune. That's a different topic though.
True, I do want to play it there.
However, I think that's important. Like, look at like the price of like a box of Dude, which is still like relatively pretty cheap per se. But there was a point in time where after Genesys was announced and people realized like, oh, like I think it was Archmage is also in that, Radiant Typhoon. Some of these archetypes that were a bit underwhelming in a TCG environment have an opportunity to perform in a slightly lower power level that Genesys kind of offers. And I think like the price of a box of Doom of Dimensions went up, I think $10. I think like a week or two after the announcement. So while it might not necessarily save the value of every single product per se, at least in some situations the OTSs can like get a little bit more out of that just by having more places to play cards. I mean, look at the price of Swen, on release versus post announcement for Genesys. I mean, going up to think like $6, $7 doesn't sound crazy, but I mean, it basically doubled in price as the format kind of developed, which I think is overall a good thing. Cards being expensive isn't always amazing, but it's good. Yeah. It's good to see that from a value perspective, it's helping out the game.
No. I'm really glad that you brought that up. Medius is another example. Medius the Pure, went from like a random $6 card to now like the cheapest versions are $12, $14 or something like that. It single-handedly saved that entire set, because like the most expensive card was like a $6 Holisu for a really long time in that set. Yep. And so now you have Medius and you have Nerva and all those Archmage cards that are now seeing play and things like that. And I've been playing a lot of Magic: The Gathering recently, and that's a card game that has a ton of different supported formats. And so you have like the newest set comes out, and even if it's not good in like the quote unquote TCG version where it's like the most competitive format or whatever, there's some good cards that will come out in those sets that are like good in Commander, and so it'll save the sets and give the set the longevity because there's like this one niche card that sees play. And so
Right.
by introducing Genesis and a different power level of format, yeah, I love that you bring that up because it does make the product more feasible. And especially in 2025, we saw Yu-Gi-Oh hit the lowest lows that it's ever seen. I mean,
Oh yeah.
we haven't had a box that hit MSRP since Rhoda or something like that. Like
Yep.
that's insane. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been crazy. So I don't know. I think like Genesis doing well helps the game, like, overall. So I'm gonna, root for it to perform. But we'll see how far I go with the format. But it's neat to see like what the changes are, and it seems like the adjustments happen on a more regular basis compared to say like a ban list. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to watch for sure. So
And in other words, at the what is it 300th YCS in Richmond?
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah, so the 300th YCS, catch Grant playing Skull Servants at the Genesis Invitational.
Nah, bro, I'm breaking
I'll
on
train
like
him.
2 copies of Anunku and like in a dream. So it'll be a good time.
We'll cook something up. Any last points on Genesis before we move on?
All good here.
Bitch bet.
Chilling.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hit the actual meat of the podcast here. As somebody that has not touched very much of the TCG in the last couple months, I'm going to be kind of foreign to this stuff. But we always talk about the state of the meta and how things are shaping up. So first thing I want to really touch on is the emergency ban list. It came out a month ago, month and a half ago at this point. What has been kind of the fallout in your guys' eyes to all those floodgates and just let's face it, unfair cards that were hit?
Well, I'll say
Um,
one of the ones I noticed almost immediately in subsequent events is the fall off of representation for Canine Crystron. Um,
Yeah.
maybe it's the fact that there's enough interruption in the game now without being able. I'm not sure what it is. I definitely have to say that the artifact hit was had something to do with it because it almost immediately, you might catch one in a top table in a top spot across 3 or 4 different regionals, but it's definitely not got the representation that it had prior to the emergency list. And it could just be, people see a card get hit, they automatically shift away from that deck because they just think it's not as strong. And maybe in time, again, as the meta shakes out a little more and people start tuning towards other stuff, it'll make its way back in. But I think that was one that stood out to me for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I was gonna say something that I've definitely noticed is hitting one of the on one of the most iconic side cards, whether it being a thrust target or a 3 of, because we're in a format where it was literally just non games, so you can't really negate it. It would be D barrier, dimensional barrier. You would always see it like thrust is still a pretty decent card, but I feel like, at least for me, like if you were going into an event and you were wanting to win or do well, you would either play like some version of either 2 to 3 thrusts and a D barrier, or you play 3 D barriers straight up. And that was like, if you weren't doing that, you weren't playing to win. That's
Right.
how broken that card was, because it would just make non-games. Like because like it would also contribute to like the die roll format. It's already super hard going second, but having that D barrier as well is just like completely shutting your opponents out of the game. But I feel like those are a lot less frequent now because we removed one of those floodgates being D barrier in terms of like having those non games. So I think it's cool. And like just having like a lot of those cards out of the game is also really cool. I think it just allows for more interaction between the players, and I know that's why I like Yu-Gi-Oh. I like winning, but I don't like winning by having non games. I don't think that's very fun. Everyone likes to show that they're good at the game and that they know how to play their deck in and out, and still like express that through our gameplay, not just Oh, here's my debugger. Go ahead.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll kind of hop in here. For starters, if I'm winning by a non-game in like 15 minutes, that's lunch for regional, bro. They don't give lunch breaks anymore, so you gotta get where you get what you can. But no, really though, I think one of the biggest deals that came out of the ban list was obviously since a lot of the floodgate type of monsters or board pieces were removed. We're in a situation where not as many decks feel as pressured to play as many hand traps as before. Like you can actually side breakers or even like main some breakers and see some sort of success. And through that, also you can play some more of the engine heavy decks that are able to just kind of push through boards. Like outside of like say like Mitsu Yummy, I think a lot of boards are actually pretty beatable with the right combination of engine pieces. So like if Red Sea wasn't in the format, for example, I think like Memento would like be in a much better position. Like that's one of my favorite decks of all time. Resolving a Red Sea on Memento Fusion sucks and it's terrible. But like there's like examples of decks like that can just play like a droplet and like just very strong engine amounts. Like that's why I think K9 Vanquish Soul was able to come back swinging as much as it did, where it depends largely on its own engine first and foremost, plus chummies. And I think that's. I'm not like the craziest expert on the planet here, but it's any deck like that has those high impact hand traps plus chummies right now is in a much better position. Like Draco Tail, for example, being able to play like 3/5 mana, 6 chummies, Azuna Lupus, maybe like a Magnuma, and that's like pretty much all it needs to do to kind of get its engine going. I think it's probably the best situation you could possibly ask for a deck like that. So I don't know. I'm kind of talking in circles here, but that's my take at least. Is you don't have to play as many hand traps. Engine is a bit more important now. Like you're actually able to break a board. The only exception to that now, I guess, is the spell canceller that's running around a little bit. That's probably the most terrifying floodgate monster you can expect to see. But outside of that, it's pretty doable to play second into boards in some situations, given that you open say like a droll or a chummy. But outside of that, it can be a bit more tough still for sure.
Are people also doing like seventh tachyon for the water barrier statue as well?
Yes, yeah, that's also.
Oh, yes, they are.
Niko, thanks for speaking up. I would love to put you on roast here. As our
Oh,
resident
absolutely.
most hated cards of all time, and you absolutely love them and call anybody that hates them trash. What is your state of the floodgate ban list?
Thank you so much for putting me on the spot, and you best believe it. I'm actually, as an observer now, for me personally, I don't think the format's changed all too much. I agree with Austin that it feels like Christian got the most of the the slap in the face, of it all. Just because, I mean, let's be real, it was a canine deck with a Christian engine in it, that led to the whole, Mjolnir lock, and obviously people were not like, complete fans of that. I wasn't a huge, fan of the ban list in general. I'm one, who thinks the cards that I think search those broken cards should be banned, like let's be honest, no one's gonna like hard play one copy of Protos or a Fossil Dyna. You know, what made them as more busted as they are is the ability to search them. And the decks nowadays we're able to get access to those cards. But the format as a whole hasn't changed. I think that you would think that like certain decks would fall out of the carousel, but it's still Mitsuyami, it's still Dracotel, it's still you're still gonna see those. I think so many people, so many prominent people were complaining about these cards to the point where, it started to get traction in like, the live streams. You had live duels, get ended in like, a matter of minutes, and that's not, it goes to like the bad, version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where like there is no interaction, but that's what makes the game as special as it is, you know. So, looking at it, I understand, why it needed to happen. Um, I think we can debate what cards should have been on there. Maybe more cards should have been on there. And cards should have probably been left off. But I think, at the time, I think that it worked. I think people were very pleased. I think it leans the game in a more positive direction than it was during YCS Anaheim. And I think that, listening to the players, I think is, you know, I think it needs to be the case in any game. I think that the players should speak their mind. Um, because they're the ones who drive this thing, drive the product, they drive everything. And I think that that was a very like healthy way of Konami letting the players, that their voices are heard, you know. Um, the specifics of it, on what cards should have been on there, what should have been on, that can be debated all day. But I think it being released, shortly after that event was them just reassuring the players that that they're heard. And so for me personally at the time, I think everyone was taken aback by it, but I think, overall it led to more positive than good, or positive than bad. So I think it was good at the end of the day.
Cool.
Mhm.
Well, following the Floodgate ban list, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but what does the meta look like right now? I'm seeing a whole bunch of diversity. Malice seems to be back on the menu. Grant brought up a Memento here and there.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, I haven't seen Mermail in a little bit, so our wettest boy is no longer taking interest in the game. But what does the meta look like for you guys?
I think it goes to what I was saying, just a second ago, is it feels the same. It feels the same in the sense, like, I think there's been nothing that's been added to the carousel, but like also it feels very like, more, I guess. Well, I guess that's a more, I don't know how to word it properly, but it feels like Malice is like the only one that I guess like came back into the picture, but like, did it ever really fall out? Do you know
What
what I
about
mean?
VSK9?
I think VSK9. I think Grant hit the nail on the head, to be honest, in the sense that like now with decks that are more engine heavy can have pushes. I think players are realizing, even with all the hits that it got after winning Worlds, that the deck is still very good because of the K9 cards. I think any deck that can play a good K9 package right now is just ahead, because the K9 cards put in check a lot of hand traps, because if you don't respond to the K9 cards, your hand traps are very like, they're not weaker, but you just have to use them like in a different way, in a sense, because the K9 cards, just having a Ripper there, like once you first hand trap them or they lead with their K9 cards and then they do their combo, it just feels like you're already so behind and your opponent has established like kind of a safety net for them to play their game and play their own turn. Like even going into breaking boards with the K9 cards, I feel like is so good, because just a Nash Knight or a Valon or like any of these rank 5 toolboxes that can be used with the K9 cards feels like really good. I don't know. Like I'm not even playing them personally right now, but I kind of wish I was. Like I was playing a deck that had more opportunity to play them, because I feel like every time I play against a deck that has that space and that like extra deck space and main deck space to play that, even if it's a smaller package, I feel like it's just really good in today's metagame. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. I think something interesting to add on to that, between like some of the best decks in the room, between like K9 Vanquish Soul, you have Mitsuyami, you have branded branded Vanquish Soul. That's probably the next thing. Branded Dragotel. And I mean, even like Malice is probably like one of the last remaining like hand trap decks in the room, simply just because it doesn't play enough bodies to be able to to sustain a second engine anyway. But regardless, like having some sort of whether your two engines in your deck are able to bridge into each other or not, I think just having the ability to make those extra pushes is really important, to add on to the idea of like strong engine, being able to break a board, playing a minimum of two engines in a deck that either work with each other or not. I feel like is really important right now. It's one of the reasons like I was messing with even just like K9 Dracotail, just because okay, you set up a Ripper, okay, and then the Ripper can also check Red Sea and Ash and Bell on your traps, and then all I'm saying is Saryuja, Zombie Vampire. You mill 4, you draw 4.
Those
After
cards
you
gotta
resolve like the
go.
K9,
They
they're
gotta
great. I
go.
love them. They bridge into whatever you want. You
Gotta
just see the
go.
card. You just
They
see the
do
cards
gotta
you
go.
need. They do gotta go.
I love with fire, bro.
They're toxic, but
Bruh.
they're low-key kind of
As a
toxic.
Thunder Dragon entrepreneur, okay, aficionado, those cards gotta go. They gotta go.
Yeah.
How
I'm
did
considering any engine right now that, like, say for example, my next psychopath journey is gonna be trying to see if I can find a small enough Gem Knight package to make a Saryuja, and just like hit the Lucius, like anything that makes Saryuja, bro. That I'm all for it right now. So if you got any suggestions, let me know. Because I need to find another engine to pair with Dracotail so that they can try to Holly Sue early or Zuna early or something like that. Because I'm tired of seeing these Vanquish Soul players. They're like, whoa, 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 buddy. Still in your main phase. And they go Holly Sue and they destroy your entire back row in a few sweet motions. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. So,
plays Dracotail, by the way?
yeah, plays Dracotail, by the way. Don't worry about that part. But anyway, that's my little small rant. I think having a secondary engine is too important right now, and also having something to force in a Zuna or a Holly Sue early is twice as important, because otherwise they can just hold it forever, and then the longer they hold it, the more impactful it gets when they can just take your end board pieces for free. So it's very interesting. I know it's only a small part of the state of the game at the moment, but I think that's probably one of the biggest deck building challenges for, say, like Tricotail or any of these decks that struggle versus Canine Vanquish Soul, because it entering the format again just kind of, I want to say out of nowhere. I'm sure in, like, higher level circles, this is probably a best kept secret that the deck could come back at any time and just sweep an event. So, and we kind of saw that happen like last weekend.
As somebody that's coped on Vanquish Soul for the last year and a half, I could have told you that. It's always been the best deck in the room.
As long as 50% of the player base takes it, like some of them they're not gonna brick, they're gonna see the Holly Sue, and those guys,
Exactly.
those who see the Holly Sue will float to the top,
What
that,
I'm hearing is Razin did nothing wrong, and they should put Razin back to 3. We can take Holly Sue away.
Surely, yeah.
Also, what's been your experience with the meta?
I mean, pretty much everybody got it. Everybody summed it up. I'm a Malice player at heart, so being able to play Malice is fun.
Yeah, you can say that until I take the Lantias out of my side deck. So the Perulias are back in. No, the Lantias did not make the cut for the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it's a little weird. We're in a weird phase. This is kind of like that timing between the ban list and the new set back in April and May, when Memento won the back-to-back YCSs, where we're not really kind of getting a defined meta. As people like try all these different blends. It's funny that you'd mentioned branded Vanquish Soul, Grant, because there is a Dracotail Vanquish Soul list out there somewhere.
Their attributes.
Yeah, right. And then even today or yesterday, I saw that there was like a first you've seen the Malice Radiant Typhoon going around again, to speak to your point about multiple engines, which I think that's a great engine in terms of like being able to have a lot of pushes, and then also alleviates the need to play as many hand traps in Malice. But I just think that we're in that weird interim period where people are kind of figuring out like exactly what is the most dominant, what is the best thing. And one thing I've come to realize is that playing one deck solidly is good, but having like 2 or 3 decks that you can float between as the meta itself shifts, and like maybe we don't have new product or we don't have like a defined best deck, but being able to like play, because like Malice feels really good right now as Lancia is not in the meta, so more people are going to shift towards Malice, but then that'll bring Lancia back in, and Chaos Hunters being cited in some lists again, so being able to swap to another deck and play it like that, I think is the best way to kind of enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! And stay on your toes, and it's also another form of skill expression. But in this interim period, I just seeing like what's out there, I think that you get a good, again, as not a very strong deck builder, being able to see all this ingenuity come out in the form of like Malice, Radiant Typhoon. I saw a Malice super quant list, which is wild. The Dracotail Canine. I think seeing all that is really fun, even though playing against it is the worst possible experience you could ask for. So,
fair. Fair enough. Kind of following up on that, you know, we have this super diverse meta, and you know, but realistically, we've been in a very similar meta as far as what decks you should be expecting to see for a really long time, and you're seeing the general audience of Yu-Gi-Oh kind of become discontent with it. What are your guys' thoughts on you know, just the general discontent as far as the meta goes? If the meta is getting stale, like, do we need a big shakeup? Like, what's going on with all that?
I think people just need to stop tying themselves to what is publicly shared as the best deck. I think when you free yourself from that and you allow yourself to explore and test varying things and see, like, when you really can delve into that, I think then you start to find what's really exciting and what's cool about a meta like this, especially with all those because when those floodgates were around, you to quote Alan earlier, you were not doing yourself a service by not playing one of those decks. Now that those are gone, I mean, we still have Yummy Mitsu, which I think with the next list, potentially we see a shift there in terms of, like, you know, God damn it, Harold has to go. All right, it's long enough. That little 4-starred, no legged, no hand, one-eyed monster needs to get off my damn playmat. All right.
I agree. I agree.
Yes, I
Unbiased.
agree.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah, and then I think that there are also not problem cards necessarily, but I think that there are cards like D-Fissure that need to go now with how Malice is able to abuse that and just play that for free. I think Shifter needs to go because now you're getting into a point of, like, okay, I mean, there are counters to what are determined as the best decks, but then I think that there are things that just hamper the ability for people to be expressive about the way they play. Things like Shifter, things like Defizz, things like Ret C. I get that you should be ready for them, but also they're just they don't there's no trade-off, right? As somebody who plays those cards, you're essentially you're essentially throwing down a a coverall for a bunch of decks that you probably don't have the skill expression to beat around anyways, right? So if I'm scared of playing against Draco Tail, which is in terms of, like, what Draco Tail can do outside of the outside of, like,
Random
the
luck.
odd cases, the, like, standouts, that's a fair deck, right? So realistically, there's a lot of maneuverability and play around that you could have with a deck like that, especially with some of the tech cards that have come out, like the Fawn and the Virtuous. But when you have the ability to just play a card that says, I don't have to interact with your deck at all because you have to out this card, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that
Mm.
is conducive to what Yu-Gi-Oh is supposed to represent. I don't think that's like, I'm sure,
Sure.
that's in my locals last week. I played a very good player. He's very well known in our area. Draco Tail player. I'm on Malice. Game 3, it was very good back and forth in the game 1 and 2. Game 3, I opened D Shifter Retsi. There was no chance he was going to beat me ever. Like, I hope no, I'm playing. But
What I love about D-Fissure and Macro being talked about now, I don't think Macro is getting talked about that much, but D-Fissure in particular was at 1 for a really long time, same with Macro, and they moved it to 3 specifically to, like, hamper tier during tier 0. And they were like, well, this card kind of hurts tier a little bit. They released it, and we're seeing the repercussions of it. Maybe we shouldn't be releasing floodgates to counter, like, really strong decks. I don't know. Maybe that's just me playing
It's like,
Genesis, but
invasive species,
yeah,
like
yeah,
kinda it's just like
Maybe think a little bit more before you release cards. I don't know.
yeah. I think that was the list that they were like, oh, hey, we're gonna hit Herald of Orange Light to 1, and then we're going to give you Macro and D-Fissure to 3, and hope that your flu deck can beat tier 0.
Speaking of flu, granted how I said, like, I'm really enjoying Radiant Typhoon right now, and we're talking about, like, I don't know. I've had a great time with the deck, learning the lines and different variations I could play. Granted, I have access to one of the remaining floodgates, being Harpy's Featherstorm, and that's not very fair. But then again, like I said, I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't play that card.
Right.
And I also really enjoy being able to break the main meta's board and like play my own game without using that card. But then again, like I said, I have to play that card. That's also another card that needs to go. But for the time being, I think it's a really cool rogue option. And I think the meta is like, I think it's fine. I really think it's fine.
Okay,
I do
but-
want to shake up. I wish like, sorry, go ahead.
No. Continue.
Oh, I said I wish Phantom Avengers would shake up the meta a little bit, just so we would have like, just so it'd be a little bit more interesting till the next ban list. But I really don't think this meta is all that bad, in my opinion.
I
agree.
really want to touch real quick on the Harpy's Featherstorm because I think that it's such a niche. I think that card is okay because going back to what I was saying about being able to play these cards that don't have trade-offs. The trade-off is, what do you need to activate that card?
Just control a winged beast monster.
You have to control a winged
Wind
beast monster, right?
Yeah, winged
Crazy
beast
trade-offs.
monster.
So when you had access to it so easily when you were playing Castell and Rizio, but okay, Rizio itself as an engine was very strong, too strong, so they narrowed that down. And now look, they still could make the same Castell Harpy's Featherstorm play, but they don't because the rest. So I think in terms of like where you have accessibility to that card, that's the nuance there, and that's why that card is sticking around, because I do think that there was consideration for banning that card in the previous list. But cards like D-Fissure, cards like Red Sea, there's no trade-off. And the best part would be if Red Sea special to your opponent's side of the field, because then it's like their card to deal with. But because you're going second, you throw down this floodgate from your hand that's not once per turn, right? That your opponent can't just attack over. They have to commit some sort of amount of resources to get over it like that. I think those kind of cards are above. They're not much higher, but they are above how problematic Harpy's Featherstorm could be.
I think I
Understandable.
disagree as somebody that has not played TCG at all, but just in a vacuum,
You don't
and
fucking
granted,
know that.
it is a vacuum, but like you can interact with Retaliating Sea a lot easier than you can interact with Harpy's Featherstorm, and even if it's not like seeing as much play as say it did during Ryziel, or I remember I got hit with it during Drytron format, and that can happen, but at least Retaliating Sea is a floodgate that stays on the field, whereas Lingering Floodgates, like if you don't have the interaction for it literally right then, you can't interact with it anymore. And especially with how fast-paced Yu-Gi-Oh is at this point in the year of our Lord 2025, like even if it's suboptimal to play, if you can put two yummies together to make the fucko and then set a Harpy's Featherstorm, and then next turn you just get to OTK them because you locked your opponent out of the game for a turn, like that seems pretty good to me.
Yes, I agree with that. I think there are certain cards that are in the game, like Harpy's Featherstorm, that the card literally says like you cannot play the game in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think any card that says it locks you out of a mechanic of the game, I think it's just a card that shouldn't exist. It's why Dimensional Barrier is probably the only one that was on that emergency ban list that I felt like 100% deserved to be there, because it just locks you out of a mechanic of Yu-Gi-Oh itself. So I think that as much as I agree with Austin also, because I love cards like this, I think for the state of the game, cards like that don't deserve, they don't have a place here.
I mean, you can look at it even in terms of Genesis too. People were literally giving up all their points to play VFD, like just because like having an activation that just locks your opponent out of the game for a turn is really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. My point being though is cards that have a trade-off, right? There's a very specific activation requirement for a card like Harpy's Featherstorm. So not only like even if you're playing that and Thrust, you have to be playing a Winged Beast, which in the current meta, how easy is that to do, right? And I think that again, this is all meta dependent. if the meta were to shift and suddenly winged beast monsters were more prevalent in the top decks, then yeah, 100% Harpy's Featherstorm needs to go. I'm just saying in terms of like comparing it to the other currently easily accessible floodgates, it's not a problem currently.
That's fair, but I think yes. Right now, it's does not have as big of a target on its back as it did like maybe 6 months ago or something like that. But even then, you have stuff like Spell Canceller that like a deck that is not the best deck in the room is playing. It's still frustrating to play against. It definitely deserves to have the target on its back that it should. All right, good talk.
I just think Floodgate bad. That's my that's the end
That's
of it.
true. That's true.
It
Whether they'll
sounds
do
like
it or not is up to them entirely. But at least they're willing to have the dialogue to address some of these cards when they can become the problem. And I mean, like hitting like say like the fire statue was a pretty heads up decision from their end.
Mhm.
So I think it shows that they're capable of making those decisions if they want to. I guess we'll see going forward if that happens. More as time goes on. Maybe we'll see
It's
a spell canceller hit, but at least we know like they are able to look at the game that way and make that choice. So it's
it's
just only a matter of time.
honestly asinine to me that like they recognize that barrier statues of Stormwinds, Inferno, and Drought are all problematic, but they are like, the water barrier statue. I know Mermail was locking people, but that's kind of whatever. Like they've recognized that 3 out of the 6 barrier statues are bad enough to be banned, and they're like the other 3, they're kind of whatever. We can let those guys be free for a little bit
That's
longer.
Draco Tail stocks, We
No,
just make a Gulamel and we're fine,
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, bro. That barrier statue is
But
not broken, bro.
Exactly. It's
well,
weak. Weak barrier statue.
It seems to me
looking
that
forward, and kind of looking past this meta and what's coming in the future. We're not going to talk about Phantom Revenger just yet. We're going to touch on that towards the end, but the set coming up, as well as kind of where the ban list might take us in terms of stuff. What are you guys looking forward to for Yu-Gi-Oh in 2026?
Ready to play Dark Lords, man. I'm not gonna lie. That's
I've heard so much about that deck. That deck looks sick.
I'm like I don't know. Real talk though, I haven't experimented with the deck too much, but all I know is the new Evening Star is a broken card. So I'm just looking at every fairy archetype in the game right now to see what else we can pair it with.
Mhm.
I might take a look at Sulfur is probably like my first suspect. But you can play a Melodious package. That might be cool. Hey, Gem Knight's got fairies, so like if I can just play 6 Chummies, Azuna Lupus, and Orange Light, I'm thinking I'm thinking we're gonna have a good time. So
Yeah.
oh
What is this man
oh
showing me?
I need
Oh,
to direct you.
Shadal.
Beautiful,
It's time.
beautiful binder page.
It's time.
Oh,
We're coming back,
kind of-
baby. We're coming
We
back.
never left. We never left.
to be the opposite side of the coin for Austin, I'm gonna play some Tellers. The support looks pretty insane. It might not be the best deck in the room, but it looks really fun. They have really cool like boss monsters. And then also, Austin and I on the same wavelength though is Elven Notes are really fucking sick. And we're gonna play some Elven Notes from Burst Protocol.
Yeah, that deck does look really sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for just a whole new carousel of decks that aren't just Mitsurugi cards in everything and Dracotel and branded shenanigans. Looking to hop into the rocket train come Burst Protocol and still trying to find a way in Genesis to play Mystic Mind. So exciting times, guys.
Okay, we just let that last bit slide. We'll continue to let that slide, I guess. But yeah, Rocket's good. Rocket's fun. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Rocket deck.
Actually, I did want to ask real quick because he kind of mentioned something key. So going forward, I think So I think one of the most egregious examples of this is Habakiri. So it's funny that he mentions this. But based off of that, do you guys feel that going forward we should move towards decks being more type locked, like to them archetype locked, or do we want to see more Habakiri levels of like crossover? What are you guys thinking?
That's a good
More-
Let me
question.
start. I actually have a fun opinion on this. Fiendsmith is okay. Fiendsmith is an okay splashable engine. It was never the like most problematic of parts of the deck that it was in. It was good enough to be standalone for certain decks, but you still had things like Kashtira Fiendsmith, you had Primite Fiendsmith, you had like all these like little builds and everything that it was good, but never the best part of the decks that it was in. Where it becomes a problem is when the deck is splashable and it can win just by like breathing. And that was what you were seeing with like things like King of the Feral Imps into full Mitsurugi combo, or anything like that. And I think that Mitsu is a outlier in the fact that it is really strong, and like it is so splashable, so it just makes it like the best engine that you could be playing at any time. Contrast that with Fiendsmith, where it was probably the best engine you could be playing, but it wasn't winning games on its own. It would do good stuff, but it was never just like overwhelming in the way that Mitsu is.
I mean, and then too, I mean, to add on to that a little bit, the Mitsu engine just works really well with other engines at the same time. I mean, as we've seen with like Mitsu Yummy, one of the developments was, just cutting some of the quote unquote bricks, like just cutting the Kusanagi, the Aramasa, and just playing the ability to get to 2/8, and then 2/8 gets you Zombie Vampire, which bridges you into whatever engine you're deciding to play. Whether it's Yummy, I mean, Orcust we saw a little bit, towards like Anaheim format and like maybe like the few weeks before that. It's just it's crazy. Whereas like it's kind of the opposite of Fiendsmith, where every deck that could build a board would bridge into Fiendsmith with 2 bodies. 2 Mitsu bodies can bridge you into whatever other engine you're playing with, and sometimes it bridges back into it. Like I think it's it's absurd. I think if we lower the power level, not just by hitting, say, like the engine pieces of decks, but by hitting more of the bridges per se, hitting Zombie Vampire, hitting, I mean, honestly, Herald of the Arclight could go. I mean, I think, people are saying like, oh, ban Gravity Controller. No, that's not gonna, that's not exactly gonna work. I think
Gravity
People are really
controller.
fucking saying that.
that's like that's a psyop in its own right. So no, I think
Like the
by hitting
branded
some
players that were like, "Hey, we really should just ban Gimmick Puppet Knights."
guys, only
Albion's not the
ban Gimmick
problem.
Puppet. There's no other way to do it. There's no other way to do it, right? So I think hitting a lot of these extra deck accessible pieces that bridge into another archetype is a good way to like lower the power level of the format. In a way that doesn't like necessarily neuter like the consistency of the decks, because I don't think the consistency is the problem. It's just that you can mash two together and then suddenly your deck is twice as strong. Like so that's my piece.
I agree with that. I think more. Well, I think that the Mitsu engine is so. I think Mitsu as a deck is very cool. I like how it plays. But the ability of you just throwing it in like you're at Yummy and not having any like locks or setbacks, because you threw those two together is just not okay. And personally, I think going forward, I think there should be more, I guess, in our type locks. Not for every card, but for some that, like not allow another like just like 6 blue cards in a deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely think Habakiri probably should have had a reptile lock or something, or even just like you have to only special summon monsters with levels for the turn or something like that. The bad news is Mitsu is getting a structure deck. And so,
Yep.
like, do we realistically think that they actually hit that deck in any meaningful way?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's where the bridge comes into play. Oh, sorry. Go
No,
go for
you're
it.
good.
No, it was pretty. Oh, it's a quick note anyway. I think that's where the bridges conversation comes back, where maybe Mitsu the deck isn't the problem. It's Mitsu plus whatever they're milling for with Zombie Vampire into is more of the problem per se. I'm down for Pyramitsu as a deck to stay like relevant in the format as long as it wants to. It's just like adding that on to being in a very very accessible engine is I think the problem.
Right.
More so than the main engine pure itself. So
Cool. Well, going back to looking forward and everything like that, what do you think that we need to do to make the meta more enjoyable? Do the decks coming out in Burst Protocol have a chance to compete with the current meta? Do we need a ban list in order to like kind of stave off the current threats? Like, what are we feeling?
Such a loaded question. I think the first point of order going into the new year or season, I guess, would be definitely have a ban list of sorts. I think, even with the emergency one, I still think the best decks are still the best decks, and I think come January, I think they will have overstayed their welcome it's had. And I think just, you know, a hard reset is needed, especially going into that new set where you want to promote like, like I said, like archetypes like Elven Notes, you want to promote that, you want to promote other new things and other new like staple cards and stuff. I just think that like instead of making those decks even more powerful, I think that they should help the new upcoming decks, to so that they can find their place in the meta.
yeah, for sure.
I think too, Konami probably recognizes that Phantom Revengers might not be the best set they've ever released, so they gotta give something to that, in terms of like a ban list and maybe try and push people to try and experiment with those. I will be curious to see because I think it's easy to write those decks off at face value just based off what we saw the OCG do with them, what we saw the OCG do with them. But I think too, the TCG's always been more aggressive in terms of their deck building and variety, and I think that that's no more clear than what happened with Draco Tail and the Renaissance that Draco Tail's experienced. So I'd be interested to see like once we actually have the cards here, what that'll look like and what technologies we'll find. Which is again one of the to speak to a topic that's been talked about offline a lot. Some players want to see like a merged ban list or merged releases of products. And while I do think that products need to come out a little closer together, I don't think that a merged ban list or merged product releases is beneficial for the game. I think having those two distinct um, play those two distinct zones of play or spaces to experiment with are really healthy for the game. So I would be interested to see a list come in, adjust what we have established, even see Malice kind of get touched a little more. That sounds insane, but just to see what'll happen there.
I don't even think it's really that
Yeah.
insane. I mean, Malice has been around for a year at this point. Like, we were all pretty much like, hey, when can we just like forget about the year of fire for like 6 months before
Oh
they
man,
finally
yeah.
hit fire or Snake Eyes,
True.
Like just snake eyes it at that point, just make it, ban Dormouse or something just like ludicrous. I don't know.
I mean, Master Duel banned Red Ransom, and I think that that's kind of based.
Speaking about Dormouse was just random, but yeah, the actual thought, yeah, the ransom ban in the TCG,
I mean,
that would
you
that'd be
hit
wild.
either Ransom or White Binder, and I think the deck stops getting played. I think they're both equally like obnoxious, powerful cards for the deck. So I'd be okay with either of them.
Mm-hmm.
Would you?
No, not at all. Actually, probably stop playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
And then I had to watch them take Razin out back and shoot him
Old
executioner
Yeller.
style.
Look
Yeah.
look across the river, Raisin, like,
Yeah.
oh geez.
Well, we just recently had a new set come out. We've already talked about it slightly, but I just kind of want to give a spotlight to Phantom Revenger and the. Do we want to call them cool decks? Are they cool decks? I've heard that
Mm.
Enneacraft is kind of the lamest thing that's ever happened.
That's not true.
Um,
That's not true. I think flip effects are based.
Yeah, what? You're telling first off, you're saying you're pendulum hating in front of the pendulum lover. Second off,
I play Genesis. I don't know what a pendulum monster
yeah,
is.
exactly. Yugi Boomer here. I first off, I do want to remind. Do we know? Has the rumors been confirmed about Phantom Revengers being delayed?
I think yes, right? I thought it was. I don't
Is
know,
it
I could
delayed? I
be-
thought it's out.
No,
Is it
it's
not
supposed
out?
to release on the 2nd, but I believe that there were rumors about a delay because of the 5Ds Dex delay. So I don't think we actually are getting it
Good
on
thing we
time.
have supercomputers and we're
Oh,
all
I see.
on our
I see what you
computer.
mean. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
What I will say about Phantom Revengers is I think it's a really great step in a really cool direction for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's definitely, to me, kind of how every deck build pack has kind of reinvented mechanics for the game, like how Banishing worked with Malice, how rank 4 toolboxes worked with Ryziel, and how pendulums and flip effects work with Enneacraft, with how the actual cards, the monsters interact in what's it, Hecka hands,
Hecka hands.
Hella
Hecka
hands.
hands, how synchros work with Killer Tune. I think that it's a really great step in a really cool direction. I think those decks do a lot for Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole, not necessarily for themselves, in terms of like meta relevancy. But again, like I was saying earlier, we'll just have to wait and see. But I do think that's really cool to see that, 20 years, 25 years later, Konami is still able to innovate. I think it's super easy for people to like look at the game and see like what has been played up until now and say like, oh, the game won't change. There's only so much innovation space. But Konami really came in and, said, hold my beer, and then gave us a pendulum deck with floodgates.
Oh, I like the whale. Like the whale.
like
The
the
whale
whale.
is cool.
I like the whale.
Yeah. I think he's neat.
Because the deck seems very, very like unique, neat. Expect Austin to have a Tristina Enneacraft deck profile for you guys coming soon.
True.
Real
Oh,
shit.
speaking of which, we still need to record Grant's second place OTS K9 Draco Tail profile.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's coming, buddy.
Second
Don't
place
worry.
at the
not.
most recent YCS. Don't let the fake news.
I was
Oh
gonna
yeah,
say-
yeah. OTS,
I mean-
YCS. I get them mixed up. Same difference.
YCS Pittsburgh, Gambit's OTS, like
Yeah.
like they're roughly the same. Let's be honest.
Real.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But I did some research and I don't know where we heard like Austin. Do you know what source you saw that it was going to be released? Because all the sources I'm seeing says it's still going to be released OTS on the 3rd.
Yeah, I'm sure officially it still says that. I mean, the rumors were just on Reddit, across the Discords. The standard.
Mm-hmm.
The classic believe what
the
you read on the
Reddits.
internet.
Yeah,
Reddit
actually, I'm
never
pretty
Reddit
sure
never lies,
specifically
bro.
an
Reddit
AI
never lies.
chatbot I was talking dirty to was like, "Oh, by the way."
For your information,
Yeah.
Phantom Revenge is actually gonna be delayed.
If
so.
we could take a time out from our naughty talks, Senor Master something, whatever dirty name I had to call me.
Yo,
I
yo,
have
you
bad
are
news
Rock is
for
this
you.
real, like
Oh
oh
my
jeez.
God. But yeah, for Phantom Revenge, I think they're cool decks. I really wish like Killer Tune. Like I think Killer Tune's a sick archetype. I would love to play it, and I will be playing it
Will
eventually.
you please use its
cheaper.
localized name?
Okay. Cool Tunes.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I'm
don't get me
gonna
started on that.
KMS and Minecraft, bro. Like I can't say that shit.
kill
Killer
myself.
Tune.
Yeah,
Killer
I'm
Tune
gonna-
is a
I'm gonna
sick
cool-
deck, and I want to play it, and I will be playing it in Genesis when it's cheaper. Just not in TCG. It just it just needs a little bit more. Like hopefully the second wave of support does more for these decks. I would love to see a topping Enneacraft list in TCG. I think that would be cool. I think that would spur the renaissance for Austin to be in love with another. deck
I am
that
the
they go
I
to.
am the movement. I
Exactly.
am the
He
revolution.
will be. His first top comes with Enneacraft, bro. So we all just gotta hit a pog chant.
Bow down, bow down.
Real.
He is the moment, bro.
Yeah.
Is the moment. That's tough. But yeah, I mean,
like
they're
that.
really cool. But we'll see if they make a shakeup in the meta, like I've been saying. I really want them to. Will they? I'm kind of doubtful, and I feel like the rest of us are within that same like relative
Mm.
opinion. But we could be hopeful. We could be
I
hopeful.
guess, yeah. I think I agree with everyone here, where it's not the hottest take to say that all three decks seem a bit like underwhelming, especially if you compare it to like a Malice Ryziel, premise. But I do think out of the three, the deck that definitely has the chance at getting better, especially with waves of support, is probably Killer Tune, solely based on the idea that this is the archetype that's getting pushed 5 ultras out of the set, which is crazy. But shout out Enneacraft only having to deal with the whale. That just means Enneacraft players are eating good, at least in terms of budget. But
Yeah,
in
that
terms of
second wave of support for Enneacraft going to be like flip monsters that you control. Effects cards are unaffected by your opponent's activated card effects, brother.
perfect. No Murakumo, no Murakumo wipe.
Yeah, no
We're
Murakumo
living.
wipe. You can't ash
We're
me.
living.
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly.
The,
But I think
the
Killer
Enneacraft support
Tune.
card says if your opponent flips Light of Intervention, you are legally obligated to punch them.
Yo, actually,
I'm signing hate for Enneacraft shit. But I think Killer Tune definitely, like, from a Konami's point of view, if they're trying to push players to heavily invest into that archetype, I'm assuming, I guess you never really know, but of the three decks, they might try to push heavy-handed support to make that. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes like the next Malice, 3 months later, 4 months later, once it gets that wave. I don't know what the card is. I don't know what it's going to do, but I think it has a higher chance of popping off more than Heck of Hands or, well, Enneacraft minus one pilot. I'm not going to count him as part of the statistic. We'll have
He's
some
going to be the
outliers, right?
Dinkabooey of Enneacraft.
yes.
Exactly.
Or the Ryan
So,
Hugh of Sky Striker. Yeah.
So I just needed to highlight that really quick when I make that statement about Enneacraft. I got to make sure I have my facts.
There's an
right.
exception in this call.
Exactly. But
It
anyway,
is-
that's my take, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
It is kind of interesting, kind of the way the deck builder sets have kind of been going recently. Thinking back to like Agov, Vanquish Soul and all the support cards in Wild Survivors got like one piece of support. And then you have the stuff, the like Memento Centurion Velmonica set, and they got support for like 4 sets in a row. And then you have Ryziel Malice come out, and they get one piece of support. And then you have all the Justice Hunter decks, and they've gotten 2 packs of support so far. So it is interesting the way that they're kind of doing support for the deck builder sets. If it's something where they think that they just don't need the help, or things like I don't know. I wonder what Konami's process is for something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think like the one, like, I still have my tinfoil hat on about like the Justice Hunters decks getting at least one more piece, solely from the Dracotil side. At least I know from from the design they have one fusion each for each of the dragon spellcaster pairings between, like, we're getting Frixel Malulu. They have 2 spells so far of each of like the spellcaster summoning, but we don't have one yet for Frixel. So, but we have 3 dragons. We have 3 traps per dragon. So we're just missing one spell of Frixel doing a little summoning dance, and I hope it's really broken. And Konami, please listen to me. I really want it. So that's because I know you're gonna put Ketu to 1, and I got to fill the void somehow. So
Long time listener, John Konami.
Yeah, that's all I got to say on that. Give us Frixel doing the summoning dance, and then we're good. We're happy.
That was the most beautiful coping story ever, bro.
I don't want to hear you.
I know, dude. It was bad enough. We already had like Austin, the token Malice player, and now we just have fucking Grant, the guy who just plays fusion decks and the most annoying decks. But like, god damn it.
I know Grant did a lot of talking, bro. All he did was boost the Enneacraft stock.
It's fucking dumb. Yo, Niko, turn on the cam, bro.
Yeah.
Yo, it's just gonna be the Shmeat out. Nah.
Oh, that's wild.
Crazy. He's doing it for Wonko.
For Wonka.
Well, shit. Well, if there's anything I've gained from this this conversation, is that Enneacraft will not be playable in Genesis, and I should be very happy about that.
Yeah.
Don't got to worry about it. And Killer Tune might not be playable there either, so you might not have to worry about that deck regardless. So
Yeah,
you
fair,
never know.
fair. Well, kind of wrapping up and everything. Is there anything Yu-Gi-Oh related that you guys would like to touch on before we do some shout outs?
Yeah, specifically my Valentine, I'd like to touch on.
Oh my god! Shut up.
You
That was
asked.
the AI chatbot.
He's in high school.
Officer, he's right there.
No,
I know
no,
where
no.
he
Wait, I
lives.
thought she was. Wait, I
Right.
thought she was older.
I could have
Shit,
sworn I
well-
saw your name in those emails, bro.
That's.
Damn. Maybe he's not the outlier. Maybe he's not the outlier, folks.
Oh my god.
Oh hell no.
All
Well,
right. Well,
this is good. This is good.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
glad we
this
did this.
yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Niko and Grant. This will be the last one that we ever do
Yeah,
because
go.
we're getting canceled. Well, you can follow the YouTube here at Genesys Yu-Gi-Oh and keep track of the next 6 months when we release our next podcast episode. And you can follow all of these beautiful people at their places. I'm just going to go down the list here. Austin, where can people find you? Good talk. Alan, where can people find you?
You know me, the person who doesn't post on Resurgence YGO but should be. So you find me there, and then I also play Teamfight Tactics at Yon TFT on Twitch sometimes. Haven't been recently, but might start up again with a new set coming out. But yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah, bouncing back to Austin. Austin, shout yourself out. All right, Grant, where can people find you?
To be honest with you, I don't really. I'm not super crazy on socials right now. I guess Discord, Dungeon Defenders, No Space. That's the only place you can find me. I hope no one sees this that wants to wish threats upon my life. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
There you go. Do you want to shout out like your dueling book account so people can like stalk you?
I mean, you could do that. I mean, yeah. What my dueling book? I think it's just High Velocity Boy, No Space. That's pretty much it.
Nice, nice. Austin, going back to you. Do you have anything you want to shout out?
You can
You wanna
find
talk about-
Austin Never at Assassin by Day.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
on
whoa! Am I
Twitch.tv.
being doxxed
There
right
you
now,
go.
bro? Am I
There
being
you go.
swatted?
But he's never
That's
there.
insane.
But you can hope. You can.
I
you
did
can
not
lurk
give
and
my
you can
permission for you to
follow-
hand
can
out my
follow the
information like
Twitch,
this.
Yes.
And maybe one
Police.
day he will go live again.
Police. I'm calling the police.
You can follow him on.
They're
TikTok
handing
at
out
the
my
Gaming
illegal
Late Show as
information.
well.
Anyways, Caleb, where can people find you?
Oh no, Niko's next on the list. Niko.
Why? So you can selfishly plug your SC pod and your own. Okay, yeah, I get you.
Nico.
That's crazy. You can find me in your mama's attic. Go Lakers.
Go Lakers!
Oh man, he missed the
Damn.
chance to hit it.
This
He missed
really
the
is
chance
the
to hit
last
us with
episode.
a sick rhyme. Lakers in 5.
Yeah.
He said- he said
you
Mjolnir
was just like
bands.
lips to phone, bro, on that one. I can hear that
Nah.
shit. That was nasty.
Lakers.
All
He
right.
said Mjolnir band. Malice is a can. Enya Craft is jive. Lakers in 5.
Oh my god. Anyways, Caleb, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Calica1738, or you can follow my podcast, SC Pod, where I talk about internet horror and things like that. That is SC Pod on all podcasting platforms minus Amazon. Yeah. Stay tuned for the next podcast or deck profile or just wacky thing that we're going to put out on the thing, and leave a comment down below of any questions that you want to ask, and I will personally show up in one of these fine gentlemen's houses to ask them the question themselves.
He's done it. I was taking a shit. He was in the shower.
I was in the toilet bowl.
In the toilet.
Crazy.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank y'all.
Peace.